Welcome to the Addiction Solution Podcast. I'm Michelle Dunbar. Enjoy listening and watching as addiction experts Mark Sheeran and I cover controversial as well as helpful topics on addiction, how to move past it, and other related subjects. As two of the co-founders of the Freedom Model, Mark and I will give you a completely new perspective on the topics that matter to you. We will take to task the Recovery Society's lies and misinformation and replace them with facts, research, and the methods to move on from addiction struggles without 12-step meetings, rehabs, and the shackles of endless recovery. Let's escape the treatment and recovery trap together and learn to be free. Welcome to the truth.
This is going to be a unique episode. Today, I just did a lesson.
A short lesson.
Yes, it's about 13 minutes long, 12 minutes long. And the reason I did this lesson is because people have a tendency, first of all, anytime I do a short on mindless replacement or replacements for getting over a substance use habit or a PMO habit, or if I'm coaching somebody, the topic of replacement comes up. People have a lot of opinions about that. They think that what I'm saying or what the Freedom Model is saying or what Michelle is saying is that they need, so what you're saying is I just need to get a hobby and replace it because my life isn't moving forward. Because I'll ask a question in coaching like, do you feel like your life is moving forward? Do you feel stagnant? Do you think that plays into your habit at all? And they'll say, yeah, definitely. I definitely think that my life is stagnant. I feel like my marriage is falling apart. I feel like all these things are happening and drugs are my answer. So what you're saying is I need to just get a hobby.
Or I need to improve my life. I need to find happiness and purpose. And I need all of these things that don't have anything to do with my substance use to distract me from what I want.
Perfect. Yeah. So the problem with this is illustrated in this thing that I did, this lesson. So watch the lesson and then we're going to reconvene. So we're going to stop rolling the tape now. We're going to edit the lesson in and then we'll get back with you. Okay. One of the things that's a super problem. How was this? Okay, one of the things that people talk to me about, and it's a big part of this podcast, is the idea that you can substitute or come up with some sort of replacement for your habit. And, and people do this. They do it over and over again. I'm going to take yoga. I'm going to invest in my company and work more hours. And I'm going to get an exercise regimen. And I'm going to do nutrition. And I'm going to repair my brain. And I'm going to, and they go through a whole list of things. I'm going to build new hobbies. I'm going to get a purpose-driven life. I'm going to do more therapies. I'm going to go to more meetings. I'm gonna, and then they return to their habit. Devastated. And there's a reason why this happens, and I want to do a small lesson with you. So let's say I'm going to call this mindless replacement. Okay. So in the mindless replacement scenario, you're going to have you're going to have your habit. So your habit is, let's say here, whatever it is. And that habit has a level of benefits. And let's say the level of benefits is high. And let's say it's drinking, can be PMOing, can be whatever. So whatever your habit is, these are the benefits. Now, those benefits might be stress relief, escapism, physical pleasure, whatever they are. It can be an endless list of these types of things. So there's your habit and its benefits. Okay? Then over here you have a substitute a replacement activity. So here's your replacement activity, right? But the problem is, its benefits are only this big. They only come up to here. So if you mindlessly replace your habit with a replacement and the benefits list isn't bigger than the benefits list of the habit, then you automatically go right back to the habit. No matter how many times you do this. And you can say that yoga and meetings and therapies, you see them all as beneficial to some level, but if they don't equal this, then this doesn't work. Now, sometimes the replacement is a completely different lifestyle, right? A lifestyle change. Completely. You know, a massive shift in healthy lifestyle, healthy, right? But again, if you don't see the healthy lifestyle as having greater benefits than the habit itself, your mindless replacement will fail. Now, it would take a tremendous amount of ideas in the replacement arena to overcome your habit, because your habit is a habit because you have great benefits in it. Okay? So because this is such a massively perceived benefit category, this struggles to compete with this. So the first thing you have to do before you do any mindless replacement, all right, is actually, I'll do it over here, is do a mindful replacement. Which isn't really a replacement at all. Let me explain. But for now, we'll call it this. So this is mindless. I'm just going to replace it with something, and then it doesn't compete. But in a mindful one, your habit starts out the same way. Right? It's big. It's huge. That's why it's a habit. And because it's such a dramatic habit, because the perceived benefits are so outlandish, so overblown, so magical, nothing can compete. So you're stuck with the same scenario. But in the mindful one, all right, so this is your replacement activity, whatever it might be. Here's what's awesome, is in a mindful scenario, what you do is you systematically chop out the perceived benefits to the actual benefits. And this is what our workshops are all about. Finding out what the actual benefits, the observable, objective, we could use the word objective benefits are of your habit. Suddenly, if you do the proper analysis, you will find that the real observable objective benefits, by the devaluing process that we do in our workshops and coaching, knocks this down to about maybe here. And we could say this is physical pleasure. And probably the only other one that might be a perceived benefit that can change is staving off withdrawal, right? So you have some very small physical benefits of substance use or PMOing or whatever. There's some really small benefits that are objective, that are real or objective. Now, I don't think at that point, you see, this word goes away, because you're just being mindful about benefits. You don't need a replacement, because regular life, which might be relatively mundane, even depressed, is still better. The benefits of life, you haven't even changed anything, and as this goes down, You don't even have to go looking for a replacement. Suddenly this. Now imagine, then you do build your life better. This gets smaller, smaller, percentage-wise, smaller. And these are what's called wins, net wins. So devaluing your fetish to that level is the key, because then the general benefits of life coupled with wins makes this literally nothing. But you have to do this first. Devalue. You have to devalue first. So many people leave the benefits. They don't devalue. They amplify the benefits. They think about the benefits, and then they try to replace it mindlessly. Is that ever going to compete with that? Which one's higher? We work on benefits in life. You're always going to pick this one. So if you don't devalue this first, then this can't ever compete, because there's not much in life that can compete with something that you value so much that you're willing to destroy all of this for. But it's a perception. These benefits aren't real. So once you figure that out, it drops to just base reality. This is the reason that your habit is so unfulfilling, is because you have built it up with value that it doesn't actually possess. So when you get rid of this and you knock it down to reality, this becomes easy, and that's why this method is easy. The work is in the devaluing. This is deprivation. I feel deprived. Because you're always going to want the bigger benefits that you perceive. You're always going to want those. So if you don't devalue down to this level, you're always going to go back. And if you try to deprive yourself of all of this, you're not going to do that for very long. So it doesn't really matter all this stuff you do. Now, there are people who have an exceptional life and have an exceptional amount of chaos in their life, and they balance that out, and they kind of compete with each other, and that's the guy that's got riches and 3 wives and 3 divorces and all the chaos, and it's constantly going back and forth between this blown up vision of his habit coupled with all the stuff and the wins in his life, and he's tearing his life down and building it back up and tearing it. It's much easier to just spend $189, get the workshop, devalue everything, get a little bit of coaching, figure it out in a matter of 3 weeks. Then we build some wins. Together I can show you how to plan for wins. And then now your habit's this tiny thing. And even then, you may just go like this. Now this whole thing is gone. What are you left with? A killer life. So that's what the whole freedom model is really about in a mechanical way. Now, there's a lot to this devaluing process. You may need some coaching. You have to figure out your why. You have to figure out how the heck did you build this benefits list so outrageously big, and what's behind all of that. All right? So I think that this lesson is pretty important. And yeah, this is the easy way. This is the deprived. I feel deprived of the thing I want so much, and you'll always go back to it, no matter how many replacements you build. And this is why recovery fails. Because recovery isn't even that exciting. Recovery makes your life down here. And then they build up the drug as this all-powerful thing. No wonder it fails. Can you imagine you have no benefits over here and you're stuck in a recovery lifestyle? And you haven't addressed the overblown value? Is it any wonder why AA has a 95% failure rate? Why rehab's the biggest thing that happens when you leave rehab is relapse. People go back to it because this is never addressed. There's no devaluing that happens. So, really doesn't matter what's happening in your life. If you don't devalue this monolith, you're screwed. So this has to happen first. So, get the workshop, the Solution to Addiction workshops, whether if you have a PMO issue, it's the PMO version. If it's a substance use, same process, different nuances. And then if we start that process, you go through the workshop and you need some coaching, let us know. We can get you through this process. Easily, we've done it tens of thousands of times. All right, everybody. Okay, so obviously that lesson is all about not doing this thing called mindless replacement. And I really want to talk about, you can also see in the lesson that I go from talking about benefits of substance use to perceived benefits. So I'm converting. So this is like what I would do in coaching with somebody. I would give this lesson in coaching, and Michelle does it as well. And you start out with the person thinking there's all these massive benefits in their habit.
Right.
And they believe they're actual objective benefits. And then I introduce the language of perceived benefits because they're perceptions. They're not actually there. And then in the lesson, I also go through through the devaluing process, we take out all the emotional benefits because a substance can't provide emotional benefits because it doesn't have sentience. It doesn't have consciousness. You're the only one with that. So what we start to see in the devaluing process is this idea that you have ideas around the meaning you've given the substance or the fetish, and you've given it value, and you've given it this overblown stature. At any point, you can jump in if you want to stop me.
Nope.
And so when that happens, you start to see it as perceptions, you're able to easily devalue that drug or fetish or whatever it is, because you start to say, oh my God, it's just a substance. It really is just a substance. So there is physical pleasure. I find that pleasurable. Okay, that's fair, because that's physically, objectively true, because it's a molecule. And then, and then if you notice in the lesson that we get to a place where as you're devaluing and you're realizing reality, oh my God, the substance isn't this mystical, magical, empowering and, carpet ride to the past fantasy thing. Right. And when you've devalued it, there's no need to replace anything, because what you did was you took something that you found is meaningful, your fetish, your substance use issue, and you've made it meaningless. And once you do that, that process is all you need to do. There's no need to replace mindlessly, and hopefully I can distract myself from this monolith of power, and and this is why we say in the freedom model that it's easy.
Yeah. But we say that it becomes easy.
That's a great point.
Right.
This process is work.
Yeah, devaluing, the process of devaluing. And I like how even when Mark makes it very small, like in the those columns, right? The value columns, as it gets smaller and smaller, the only thing that might be left was, oh, this gives me a little bit of pleasure. Right? I still may find it pleasurable. We're not saying that you have to see this thing as awful,
right?
As terrible.
Because it's not.
No, I mean, there are plenty of things. And and I do this in coaching with people, there are plenty of things that people find enjoyable, pleasurable, that they don't feel like they need to do, that don't run their lives, that they don't feel as enslaved to. And so that's where you're bringing this activity or substance into that realm of, oh, I enjoy this once in a while.
Yeah. So yesterday, me and Michelle were talking, and she said, people will say, oh, my life is so much better.
Good. It's so good when I'm not doing this.
But here's what's interesting. So they say, I have my kids, I have my career, I have my retirement set, I have beautiful grandkids, I have successful children, I still have my health, I have all of this. And yet I keep going back to this thing. And
Yeah.
here's what's interesting. Alls that means, and I want you to listen carefully if you're one of these people, alls that means is the right-hand column of your life and your perceptions and your emotional life is very tall and wonderful. But all it means is that the drug, the monolith of meaning that you've given it, is taller.
It's taller.
It's still taller. So that just tells me that if I have somebody, and I get this a lot with senior age people, their lives are set and they're sort of coasting into old age. And they have a lot of great things in their life. They might be a little bored or whatever. There's a little bit more space to drink in, right? But they've been over a lifetime building that drug up and building that drug up and building that and taking on all of the advertising and marketing lies of the substance use industry and building it and building it and building it and building it. And then they literally think it's their friend.
It's their reward. It's their comfort. It's everything.
And I had a guy not that long ago that I was coaching say, "Oh my God, it's gold."
Yeah.
And then I had him do the columns. I had him separate out the physical from the emotional, different style of columns, an exercise I do in coaching. And he was like, "Oh my God, when I do that, I realize, first of all, the emotions and all that is me.
Yes.
And secondly, I also realized that physically, I don't even like it because it's kicking my ass. I have pressure behind my eyes. I get a headache. I get sleepy and sloppy. I get burning in my throat where I've hemorrhaged before. Half my pancreas is gone. I had a Whipple done. And my liver hurts. So there's not even, in that case, he quit drinking that day. He was like, "Oh my God.
This holds nothing for me."
Yeah. His benefits list went to meaningless, completely meaningless, because he had worked that substance so hard for so long and extracted every bit of physical pleasure out of it. And it was literally poisoning him to death. He was very close to being dead. So that's a case where he didn't even have the physical pleasure that he didn't even, and then he was like, he goes, "It's so stupid. Why did I believe this?" And I said, "Because the marketing prowess is so good in those marketing departments that they've convinced you of a narrative that this takes away everything. It makes you escape and go into a fantasy realm." He's like, "It doesn't even do that. I'm fucking depressed." And so he quit. He was like, "I'm done. This is amazing."
And this is why this, when you look at that, and I would encourage you, if you're watching, if you're listening to the lesson or listening to this podcast, go to our YouTube channel to watch it, because this is one time where you need to watch the podcast because it is a lesson for you.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. If you're listening to the podcast, you may not see the charts I built. Oh, that's a good point. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, because it is worth it to go to the YouTube channel to watch it. Because this is the reason, when you look at those columns, if you are someone, and a lot of people email us, call us, and say these exact words, which are, we just had somebody call us today.
Yep.
They said these exact words, which are, "I know I'm happier without it. I'm so happy when I'm not doing it, but I always go back.
And I don't even like it.
And I don't know why I go back." Well, you go back because you're not happier without it.
That's right. And you still like it. Stop saying you hate it. Stop
You
saying
hate the
that.
consequences.
That's right.
You hate the high costs. There are things about it you probably hate.
But the meaning you've given it, you don't give it meaning in the negative.
No.
We don't give meaning to things in the negative. The meaning you've given it and the value is based on escapism, stress relief, things that really are,
that you take for granted.
Yeah, you assume that this is happening, but would be godlike.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way to get over stress is to reinterpret a stressful situation and then act on that new framework in your mind. which is how we get over all stressful situations. But if there was a pill or a drink or porn that can make us teleport out of our stress instantly without any effort on our part, and we believe that, my God, have you built meaning that is a monolith? It's huge. It's godlike.
Yeah.
It's external to you, causing you to be stress-free. I mean, that's amazing. The problem is it's not real.
Right.
The thing that you're giving credit to the drug by giving it this meaning for something you're doing. Talk about a useless misattribution.
Yeah.
So now, if you don't, I want to be clear about this. If you don't understand what we're talking about, if this seems confusing and you can't seem to get over this hill, call us for coaching. Get our workshops. Get the workshops. We made them affordable, they're cheap, and they're comprehensive. And our coaching is also completely affordable, the packages. Don't waste your time mindlessly replacing and failing. Stop doing that.
I want to say something else because I peruse YouTube and I look at what some other addiction coaches and people are saying, and neuroscientists specifically about porn addiction. There's so much out there about porn addiction. So when you combine this massive value that you've created, and then you go and you combine that with the misinformation about your brain, right? That somehow you get triggered, that your brain is driving your behaviors, and so which reinforces this idea that you keep going back to it because you're powerless. You keep going back to it because of this, this something, your brain compelling you. I mean, that's a lose situation every single time. I
Yeah.
mean,
Because you have no control in the
because
situation.
yeah, because if your brain was really in charge, would you be able to have a few days abstinent? Well, of course not. Of course you wouldn't. But nobody, that's just another thing that people take for granted. When we're plugged into that addiction disease matrix that I call it, when you're plugged into it, even if you're only plugged in a little and you have this belief system, you are going to feel out of control. You're going to feel like there is something compelling you to do something that you really don't want to do.
Yeah. So the idea that brain chemistry is the thing in control of your behavior is very weird. And here's why. But if that was true, because your brain is a physical thing. So is there another mind, intelligence, or consciousness behind your brain that's telling your brain to behave in this way, which then tells your mind? I mean, it gets so ridiculous. Your brain is a physical thing. And you think, but the question is there a dual mind present? And one that is telling your brain how to think, which then manipulates the biochemical reactions, which then guides your behavior. Or I think it's a little more obvious that you think, and then that's processed in brain tissue. Right. You think, and then it's processed in your brain isn't doing the thinking. Your software, your intelligence is you. So stop acting like there's some other force behind your brain's biochemistry that's running you and your thoughts and your emotions. That's a weird idea.
Right.
And the neuroscientists can never answer that question. They can never answer, well, and how is thought made? From physical, and then it converts into the metaphysical. Well, how does that happen? Well, they have no answer because it's not true. You think, therefore you act. You think, therefore you are.
The interesting thing is when you're becoming mindful, you're really become an observer of your own thoughts, right? That's what you're doing.
Yep.
And you're questioning your own thoughts. You're questioning your desires,
your beliefs.
So if you frame it, and the way you frames things matter. If with Mark's lesson, what he's showing you is the process of deliberation.
That's right.
Okay.
It's analysis.
It's the analysis, because many people frame, I have got, the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other, and one wants me to go do this, and the other one's like, no, you shouldn't do that.
Right? Like it's something other than you.
But it's not. If you frame it like, no, I'm going to question myself. I'm not going to scold myself. I'm not going to fight with myself.
Yeah, there's no two yous.
No, I'm just going to say, hey, I still do want this. And according to the freedom model, it's because I see enormous value in it. If you struggle to figure out that value, well, that's what the workshops are for. That's what coaching is for, because sometimes it is hard to figure that shit out.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get away from this idea of external causes. Let's get rid of this idea of a dual mind running your biochemistry, which is just a strange religion in and of itself. Let's get away from biochemistry randomly determining your behavior. That's determinism. That's silly. It's just silly. It's ignoring the fact that you think. Just the fact that you can think about determinism negates it.
It does.
So we're in a place of a pharmaceutically run ethos,
for sure,
and a pharmacology centered, we call them brain centrists, point of view, and that's a dead end road. So the question is real simple: don't just mindlessly replace getting high with yoga. All right. Don't think that a healthier lifestyle or a vegan diet or a holistic program or all this external shit is going to do a damn thing. It'll distract you for a little while from the monolith of value that you've created, but you can also stop doing all those distractions, those temporary distractions that fail, and you can start to do your devaluing process. Again, if you don't know why you do something, what is behind the meaning, this is important too. This is a different topic altogether. Some of you have built this meaning based on needs that you have that are very personal. If you don't understand those needs, if you don't understand what's behind this thing that you've created, this perceived benefits list of the drug, then you're going to need some coaching to sort through that. That's just reality. Now, I bring that up all the time because people will contact us. I read the book and I can't seem to figure it out. We have about 60% of the people that read the book solve their problem.
They do.
But then
I wouldn't have been one of those people.
I needed to talk. I needed to talk because I was so deeply I had coupled so many things in my life that it was like a giant rubber band ball, like Michelle always says, of confusion. And I couldn't sort through what was real, what wasn't real, what beliefs are objectively true about the substance, what aren't. And I just was screwed up. Now, when I finally figured it out, I wrote the book because all the information is in that book. Make no mistake, it's all there. But what we can't do in a book, in pages, is know your autonomous ideas about the value you personally create. That is a creation of an autonomous mind and their experiences in life. So if you want to sort through that and you want to sit there and quickly read a book and expect that it's going to change you, well, you're barking up the wrong tree. You have to analyze and debunk lies that you've been telling yourself, in some cases for an entire lifetime. And that's your religion, your recovery religion, your addiction religion, and the religion of building value in objects with mystical value. So this isn't necessarily an easy process, but once you devalue it, you sort through it, you understand your why, you devalue it, you make this monolith meaningless, your life will go on, you're free.
You move on. It does become easy. Yeah, absolutely.
It does. It becomes effortless.
Absolutely. So,
okay.
All right. That is our podcast for today. Hey, if you like our podcast, please give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen, or we love your comments on YouTube. Give us your comments, questions. and share our podcast with your friends and family and anyone you think that can benefit from learning the Freedom Model.
If you have any questions, call us at 888-424-2626. And also get our workshops. If you're questioning anything, it'll make sense to you. It's just a longer version of this and much more articulate.
Absolutely. So everybody have a great week. We'll see you next week.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Addiction Solution Podcast. I'm Michelle Dunbar.
And I'm Mark Sheeran, and we are the co-authors of The Freedom Model for Addictions, Escape the Treatment and Recovery Trap, with our colleague, Stephen Slate.
We want to tell you quick about our solution to addiction coaching packages. They've become very popular. We've had really great success with them. They include the solution to addiction workshops, and we have one for substance use specifically, and then we have one for behavioral issues, specifically PMO and sex addiction. And they also include 3 90-minute coaching sessions with either Mark or myself.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 months of the online program and all of our books. The Solution to PMO and Sex Addiction book is now available with our Solution to PMO and Sex Addiction workshop only. And look, at the coaching package is a tremendous value. And if you want to learn more about it, you can go to thefreedommodel.org. And at the top of the page, you can choose whichever one you're looking for.
That's right. It's the most effective solution to any addiction in the world.
It is.